What's good? You are now rocking with the Bigs alongside Nick Moreano. My name is Herb Howard, outside the PNC Center here at Halas Hall. Nick, essentially the Bears wrapped up minicamp, mandatory minicamp today. Coach Johnson said that next Tuesday, which is scheduled to be the last one, will mostly be for some of the younger guys, and they'll have an emphasis on special teams. But a lot of the vets, I imagine guys like, DJ Moore, Montez Sweat, some of those guys, they do not have to be here, and they probably won't.
No, I mean, it makes sense. But we did get to hear from Rome Odunze.
We did.
Year 2 player, and his
young ass will be here.
He will be here. And I think, it kind of seemed like indifferent about it. Like, saying like because he's close to his rookie year, that's why he's going to be here. But Rome Odunze will be a part of the, players that will be here next Tuesday at Halas Hall.
So what do you think they kind of got out of the work that they did have during minicamp?
Well, I think Rome was saying in his press conference, the standard of what is being set for this offense, right? We saw a bunch of times throughout these mandatory mini camps, the OTAs, where plays were stopped before they even got to fully finish, right? Yeah. Because something was off. Yeah. I think that has been established throughout these entire practices where Ben Johnson has a way of doing things. The guys have to execute them.
Yeah, and I think that notch will get turned up even a little bit more come training camp. I think if guys think they can kind of take these 6 weeks and go off and do their own thing, and they come back and start to make the same mistakes that they were making in the spring, I think that's when you might see Coach Johnson lose his shit, right? Because I told y'all what we're expecting. I was on y'all about it all throughout OTAs and minicamp, and y'all come back with the same type of stuff. I don't think he's going to stand for it. So I think we'll start to see early on who are the guys who actually took the things from the spring and allowed you see it translate come summer. And I think those are the guys that will at least initially start at the top of the depth chart, certainly on offense. Like you said, he was correcting everything from how they sounded coming out of the huddle to where they lined up at. We heard from Cole Kmet, just small details. I think those things will ultimately pay dividends, but I think the guys who kind of take those things home with them and come back for training camp already on top of those things will bode well, at least initially in training camp.
Well, that's the thing. You mentioned the keyword details, because I think every single player that was made available this week at some point highlighted the details of what Ben Johnson's looking for, what Dennis Allen's looking for. Like every single coach on this staff is fixated on the details. And I think that's a good thing for these players. They're all learning new an offensive playbook, a new defensive playbook. Special teams, you have Richard Hightower retained here, but for the most part, everything's new. So the details need to be highlighted. And for the most part, we're hearing that every single coach, top to bottom, is fixated on those details.
Yesterday, we heard that the offense, came out, they played well, they finally start to find their footing a little bit against the defense. Coach Johnson has said for the most of the time they've been together, the defense has been a little bit ahead of the offense. Offense gets a chance today. This is mostly the twos, especially towards the end of practice, a couple 2-minute drills. We saw Case Keenum lead a couple of scoring drives down there. Starting to feel like the offense is starting to get a grasp of what Coach Johnson is asking?
I would say so. And just looking at, did you see after Case Keenum made the, I forgot who he threw the ball to. Yeah. But right afterwards, he just spins the ball.
He hit Tyler Scott for about a 15, 20-yard pickup that put them well within field goal range. One-on-one coverage with Josh Blackwell.
And Case Keenum, after that, they spike the ball to get into field goal position, just spins the ball. Yeah. Like, there's a swagger to
walk-off win.
Yeah, walk-off win with Case Keenum. It's, again, that competitive fire, because, look, we got a chance to hear from Tyson Bagent today, who is competing for that number 2 job with Case Keenum. We did see Case, I think, more times than not than Tyson today, but they're competing, man. But it's you want to see that the situational move the ball periods. The offense was able to move the ball at times.
Listen, the fire and the passion, you want to see that from the players. The coaches will decide the depth chart and all that. The players are going to put their best work out on the field. They're going to go ahead and compete each and every day. We heard that from Case last week. We heard the same thing from Tyson today. Tyson says, listen, man, all I know is how to compete. I'm going to come out here and I'm going to compete. We'll see, how it goes. He did mention that he really values Case Keenum being in the room and how his veteran experience adds to their room and how Case is able to answer all of the questions from the other 3 quarterbacks. You talk about Caleb, Tyson, and AR.
Austin Reed
Reed. We talk about those guys having different questions, and he says he can answer them specifically because he's been in all of their shoes. He says he's been in Caleb's shoes, he's been in my position, and he's been in Austin's position as well. And so I think they all understand the value that he brings, but we know Tyson. Tyson ain't backing down from no competition, and neither is Case. And so I'm looking forward to see how that continues to develop through training camp and on into the preseason.
And you know what? You made a good point in today's practice about another guy that's competing, Ruben Hippolyte.
Yeah, man.
That's a guy that been very touted for his speed, right?
Yep.
But I think now you're starting to see him make a couple more plays within just the defense and getting some reps in there when, You know, guys like TJ Edwards has missed some time, but you've seen Ruben Hippolyte out there.
Yeah.
You see 47 kind of move out there, but I think that's also going to be a key competition as we're kind of waiting for training camp to get here. Well, most likely, we're going to obviously see him next Tuesday when the rookies are here, but Ruben Hippolyte, that third linebacker spot, like he has a key opportunity to give himself some playing time.
And we heard Coach Johnson highlight him as one of the players he singled out that have stood out so far throughout this process. And I think that a lot of guys that you're going to hear from, he also singled out Dominique Robinson. Those guys are freakish athletes, right? They're fast, they're athletic, they've got that quick twitch, the bendability. Those guys tend to stand out in shorts and t-shirts. I'm not saying they can't do that when the pads come on, but that'll be critical for Hippolyte. When the pads come on, can he throw his pads around? Can he fill those gaps? Can he make those tackles? If he can, I think he has the inside track on getting that other spot for the third linebacker at the Sam spot, because you know that Coach Dennis Allen, DA, wants speed. He emphasized speed. It was one of the reasons that they said they were okay with Jack Sanborn moving on. He ends up in Dallas. Don't know that I agree with that move, but they did it, and they went ahead and they got a guy like Hippolyte who comes with blazing speed for the linebacker position. We've seen that a couple times throughout the process so far. I remember one route in specific, he carried DeAndre Swift on a wheel route up the sideline, got a nice PBU, no penalty. Like, I think he has that kind of speed and athleticism. When the pads come on, that's when the story will be told on whether or not he'll be the starter. But I think he does have the inside track, even over a guy like Noah Sewell, who the Bears were excited about 2 years ago when they drafted him. They've been waiting to see him kind of take that next step. I think Hippolyte, at least right now, I think he may have a little bit of an advantage. Now, when the pads come on, maybe Newell's a bit more physical than he is, and so we'll see how that plays out. But so far, so good for a kid like Ruben Hippolyte. Yeah,
no, I mean, doing what he can right now at this point. Also, just monitoring the left tackle position. We saw Karan Amagaji. He was with that first team when, Caleb and the first team didn't get many opportunities in today's practice, but he was out there for a majority of the time when Caleb and the ones were out there. Then you saw Ozzie Trapillo go out there with the twos. So, look, at this point in time, we need to see them in pads to actually indicate who's winning this competition, but we're tracking them down. You got to see Karan Amagaji 72 out there with the first team offense.
Yeah, they've been alternating days, it seems like. One will get the first team reps one day, and then you come back and Isaac get the first team reps the next day. And I think that's probably how it'll continue to go until one of those guys is either able to separate themselves, or even maybe up until the point when Braxton Jones comes back and he says, hey, let's restore some order around here. I'm still top dog. And we'll see. We'll see how big of a head start those guys get on him, because he isn't quite healthy and ready to go at this point. I know the Bears have really, really liked what they've seen from Ozzie Trapillo to this point. He seems like the type of guy who's going to go back and take this time off, stay in his playbook, and come back ready to go. So when the pads come on, man, it will be very, very interesting to see how some of those things play out in the trenches. We also heard from Big Bill, the veteran defensive tackle, nose tackle today. Obviously, he missed some time late last season as he was dealing with an injury, and then the run defense kind of suffered, right? Grady Jarrett, who actually just drove by us right now, he comes into the room and Bill says, listen, I think I can learn a lot from that guy. I'm looking forward to working with him. But also not just Grady Jarrett. Take another year for Javon Dexter. They draft Shamar Turner. You still got some guys behind them. And Billings like, listen, that's only going to help the rotation, keep guys fresh, keep guys healthy, and it's a healthy competition between all of those guys.
And what Dennis Allen's scheme, I think, is going to allow Billings to do a little bit more than just playing the nose tackle that he was kind of used to doing in last year's defense. And I think that's been the common theme for when we've heard from defensive linemen. Dennis Allen's scheme is going to allow them to play versatile positions. We heard it from Montez Sweat. We heard it for Javon Dexter. So that, I think, just creates a little bit more complications for an opposing offensive line, not knowing exactly where defensive linemen are going to line up at.
Listen, it has been a very busy, a very news-filled offseason for the Bears, not only with the draft, not only with the player acquisition phase, new coaching staff, all these things have been going on. They've made their way through OTAs and through minicamp for the most part. Next thing is going to be coming up is training camp, and that's when the football will start, and we'll start to really figure out what the 2025 Bears may look like. So far, so good, no?
So far, so good. We need to see the first two draft picks actually get on the practice field.
Oh my God. Right? I did ask Coach Johnson about that today, about, if those guys aren't ready to go when training camp does start, is there a point in that process where he starts to think that, well, maybe this is to their detriment in terms of can they be ready to go in the roles that he's envisioned them in? And he answered me kind of short and matter-of-factly, like, no worries at all. We got plenty of depth. And so if Luther Burden ain't here, Olamide Zaccheaus is, and Devin Duvernay is, and we already know that Cole Kmet is here. And so, listen, they went out and they got Smythe, who has a history at tight end with Coach Johnson. So he's like, we ain't worried about it. Yeah, hopefully they come in, they be ready. But if not, we rolling.
Yeah, no, they have a lot of weapons. This Bears team in 2025 has no shortage of weapons, but it will be fascinating to see once you actually get your first 2 draft picks from this class in the offense, what exactly is that going to look like? Probably have to wait till training camp, and that I'm really looking forward to.
Looking forward to the pads coming on. New interior D-line, new interior O-line. Looking forward to those battles. We will keep you informed as the process continues. Thank y'all so much for rocking with us. Keep it locked in. Make sure you are following Nicholas Moreano on Twitter. Follow me, Herb Howard 411 on Twitter. And make sure you are following the Bigs YouTube page. It's the Bigs Media on YouTube. Stay up to date on all the latest from the Bears as we draw ever closer to training camp and then real football. For Nick Moreano, I am Herb Howard, live from outside of Halas Hall. It's the Bigs Media. It's us.